Kyle Richards reveals unseen detail about Mauricio's airport photos. When the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Kyle Richards finally came face to face with Mauricio Umansky for the first time since paparazzi photos of him kissing a woman at an airport in Greece went viral, she already knew that he'd rather stir his coffee than the proverbial pot. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but he clearly knew that that was the elephant in the room, the unspoken thing that was going on, Kyle explained in the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills after-show video above. So nobody was more caught off guard than Kyle when Mauricio addressed said elephant all on his own. When he brought it up, I was actually really surprised, she added. He actually said out loud off camera, "I'm not gonna talk about, what I know you probably want me to talk about. I'm not doing that." And then all of a sudden he, paused and he started talking about it. Kyle Richards addressed Mauricio's role in the airport kissing photos. Despite the awkward moment, as Kyle called it on the RHOBH after show, she still didn't fault her estranged husband for the photos. "I know he did not mean for that to happen," she said. "I know he was not aware that that was happening. That's clear to me. He would not do that intentionally." As for whether or not Kyle believes that someone, either woman in the photo, perhaps, tipped off photographers, well, her opinion remains murky. "I mean, I have no idea. I don't want to speak about someone that I don't even know," she added on the after show. "I know that Mao definitely did not know that photo was being taken. I know that. I can't speak for anyone else. I mean, in looking at it, it looks a little suspect. But that's all I'm gonna say." What did Mauricio say about the airport kissing photos? During their RHOB8 episode 15 conversation, Mauricio apologized to Kyle for the steamy Mykonos photos. "You know that I would never want to do anything on purpose that would hurt you or the kids," he said. "I really am sorry for hurting you. I would never want to hurt you on purpose." Kyle's response? "I know that you would never do that on purpose," she told Mao. "I know that you did not know your picture was being taken. I don't know that the other person didn't know that. But obviously that's hard to see. But we are separated, and we're allowed to do what we want in this time. It's just strange." In a confessional, Kyle continued, "The photos really did say to me he's moving on. You can live in this la-la land for as long as you want. But that was a hammer on the head saying, 'Hello, Kyle, he's moved on. It's ok. You're both entitled to live your lives.' But in seeing these photos, I think it makes it pretty clear that this is permanent, and I don't think it's going to be easy to come back from that." Cut to Kyle hugging Mao as tears streamed down her face. Who was Mauricio kissing at the airport? Though Kyle said in RHOB8 episode 13 that she had no idea who the mystery woman is, she pointed out that it's all over the internet. Indeed, various headlines that flashed on the screen identified the woman as a Russian-born actress who is 20 years Kyle's junior. Unspoken truths, Kyle Richards, Mauricio, and the airport photos. The summer heat clung to the streets of Beverly Hills, but inside the quiet corner of Kyle Richards' home, there was a chill in the air that nothing could thaw. She sat across from Mauricio Umansky, the man who had once been her partner, her confidant, her family. But now, as the distance between them grew more palpable by the day, the weight of unspoken words hung heavier than ever. It had been weeks since the paparazzi photos had surfaced, showcasing Mauricio locked in an intimate kiss with a woman at an airport in Mykonos, Greece. The images had spread like wildfire, and the public's scrutiny was relentless. But Kyle, though hurt and confused, had remained silent. She knew the world was watching their every move, but the truth was she was still trying to understand what had really happened. Mauricio's apology had come quickly, but it wasn't enough. His words, though sincere, couldn't erase the nagging suspicion that had settled in Kyle's mind. She had always known him to be someone who would never do anything intentionally to hurt her. But the photos, they painted a different picture. "I didn't want to put him on the spot," Kyle later admitted in her confession on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills after show. But he knew. He knew that the photos were out there and that there was a conversation that needed to be had. It was the elephant in the room, the one thing neither of us was willing to address. I just wanted to pretend it wasn't real, but deep down I knew. Mauricio had always been a man of few words when it came to matters of the heart. But this time, when Kyle finally came face to face with him after the photos broke, it was he who brought it up first. She had expected him to avoid the topic, to let the paparazzi buzz die down, but instead, Mauricio shocked her. When he brought it up, I was actually really surprised, Kyle said, shaking her head as if the moment was still etched in her memory. He said, I'm not going to talk about what you probably want me to talk about. I'm not doing that. And then, just like that, he paused. He paused long enough for me to catch my breath, and then he started talking about it. He went on about how he didn't know the photo was being taken, how it wasn't something that was planned, and I could see he was just as uncomfortable as I was. For Kyle, it was the kind of awkward moment that left no room for words. The unsaid things hung in the air, just waiting for someone to crack and speak the truth. But as much as Mauricio had surprised her by addressing it first, Kyle knew in her heart that the situation was far from simple. The truth was, Kyle had always believed in Mauricio's good intentions. She knew he wasn't someone to do something so reckless. But the photos, they told a story that was hard to ignore. The way Mauricio had been so casually kissing another woman, so openly. It felt like an invasion of their private lives, a breach of trust that no one had warned her about. I know he did not mean for that to happen, Kyle told the cameras later, her voice soft but firm. I know he didn't know the photo was being taken. That's clear to me. He would never do that intentionally. She paused, the weight of the situation pressing on her chest. But I can't help but wonder who else knew. Who tipped off the photographers? I don't want to speak about someone I don't even know, but it looks a little suspect. But I won't say more than that. There was no need for speculation, though. The facts were already out there for the world to dissect. Mauricio's apology had been public, heartfelt, and genuine. But Kyle's pain was still fresh, and the photos had made something clear that she had been unwilling to see before. It wasn't just about the photos themselves. It was about the message they conveyed. Mauricio was moving on. The image of him in a passionate embrace with a woman who wasn't his wife left Kyle with a stark realization. Their marriage was over, even if the papers hadn't been signed yet. In their conversation on RHOBH, Mauricio had apologized again, his voice full of remorse. You know I would never want to do anything on purpose that would hurt you or the kids, he said, his face sincere. I'm really sorry for hurting you. I would never want to hurt you on purpose. Kyle's response was calm, but the vulnerability in her eyes betrayed her pain. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, she said softly. I know you didn't know the picture was being taken. But I don't know about the other person, and that's hard to see. It was hard for Kyle to accept, even harder to admit. They were separated. That was a fact. But seeing her estranged husband so easily moving on, and so publicly at that, felt like a slap in the face. Their relationship had been filled with years of memories, children, laughter, and love, but now it felt like all of it had crumbled in a moment of fleeting passion. We are separated, and we're allowed to do what we want in this time, Kyle admitted in a confessional. But it's just strange. To see it laid out like that, the photos just hit me in a way I wasn't ready for. The photos had become a symbol, not just of an affair or betrayal, but of the truth they had both been avoiding. As much as Kyle had tried to keep a semblance of normalcy, the photos were a clear indication that Mauricio had moved on, and it was time for her to do the same. It wasn't just the public scandal, though. It was the private heartbreak that had started to unravel over the months before. Kyle had always seen herself as a strong woman, but now, in the face of this truth, she felt her strength waver. The idea of moving forward, alone, was both liberating and terrifying. I think these photos make it clear that this is permanent, Kyle continued in her confessional, her voice breaking as she wiped a tear from her cheek. You can live in denial in this la-la land as long as you want. But that was a hammer on the head saying, "Hello, Kyle, he's moved on. It's time to face that. It's Oak. We're both entitled to live our lives, but it's just not going to be easy." The reality of the situation began to settle in, and for the first time, Kyle allowed herself to acknowledge that she was hurt, not by the photos themselves, but by the entire experience. She had loved Mauricio deeply, and the idea of him with someone else, someone younger, someone who wasn't her, was a bitter pill to swallow.